Today we're going to examine a common error that appears throughout online Baird family trees. Many researchers have attached a wife named Sarah Anne Layton Locke to Andrew Baird, son of John Baird of Monmouth. The problem is simple. No evidence exists that such a woman ever lived. Instead, this name was created when two different women, married to two different men named Andrew Baird, were accidentally combined into a single person. To understand the mistake, we first need to understand the family structure. The confusion begins with John Baird of Monmouth County, New Jersey. Within his descendants, we find two separate lines that eventually contain men named Andrew Baird. Because both Andrews belong to the same extended family, researchers sometimes mistakenly assume they are the same individual. Once that assumption is made, the wives become merged as well. The key to solving the problem is recognizing that we are dealing with two generations. The first Andrew Baird was the son of John Baird of Monmouth. He was born around 1700 and died in 1773. He lived in Freehold, Monmouth County, New Jersey. This Andrew married a woman named Sarah sometime during the 1720s. Some researchers believe she belonged to the Layton family, although surviving records do not conclusively prove that connection. Regardless of whether the Layton identification is ultimately correct, this Sarah belongs to the New Jersey Andrew born around 1700. Now we move to a completely different branch of the family. Instead of descending through Andrew, this line descends through John Baird Jr. John Baird Jr. was the son of John Baird of Monmouth. His son was William Baird. William's son was another Andrew Baird, born in 1762. This Andrew was not the son of John Baird. He was John Baird's great-grandson. In other words, he belonged to an entirely different generation. The second Andrew eventually migrated south. Unlike the earlier Andrew who remained associated with Monmouth County, this Andrew became associated with North Carolina. He belongs to the Burke County and Rowan County records. This distinction is critical because it places him in a different location, a different generation, and a different historical context. Anne Locke was the wife of the younger Andrew Baird. Their marriage took place on February 1, 1790, in Rowan County, North Carolina. This marriage belongs to the Andrew born in 1762. It does not belong to the earlier Andrew born around 1700. Anne Locke, therefore, belongs to a completely different generation than Sarah. The two women were never contemporaries within the same marriage. This chart clearly shows the problem. On the left we see Andrew Baird, son of John Baird, married to Sarah. On the right we see the separate line through John Baird Jr. and William Baird, leading to another Andrew Baird who married Anne Locke. The women occupied different branches. The Andrews occupied different generations. Yet somewhere along the way these two families became blended together. Once researchers failed to distinguish between the two Andrews, the wives became merged. Sarah became attached to the younger Andrew. Anne became attached to the older Andrew. Eventually both women were combined into a single fictional individual. The resulting name, Sarah Anne Layton Locke, appears convincing because it combines pieces of real people, but the person herself never existed. She is a product of genealogical confusion. When the evidence is separated properly, the problem disappears. The older Andrew belongs in New Jersey and was married to Sarah. The younger Andrew belongs in North Carolina and was married to Anne Locke. The records align perfectly once the generations are correctly identified. No merged wife is necessary. No Sarah Anne Layton Locke is required. Only two separate couples living in two separate periods of time. The conclusion is straightforward. Sarah, believed by some researchers to have been Sarah Layton, was the wife of Andrew Baird, son of John Baird of Monmouth. Anne Locke was the wife of Andrew Baird, great-grandson of John Baird of Monmouth, through John Baird Jr. and William Baird. These are not the same women. They were not married to the same man. The commonly repeated Sarah Anne Layton Locke is not supported by the evidence and represents a classic example of how repeated names can create genealogical confusion across generations. This version keeps the focus entirely on untangling the relationships and explaining exactly how the mistaken merge occurred, which is the real educational value of the case study. Thank you for joining me for this genealogical case study. As we've seen, Sarah Anne Layton Locke was not a real person. She was created when two different women, married to two different men named Andrew Baird, were mistakenly merged into a single individual. By separating the generations, locations, and family relationships, The evidence becomes clear and the confusion disappears. This is a great reminder that good genealogy is not about copying information. It's about evaluating evidence and following the records wherever they lead. If you enjoyed this presentation, please like, subscribe, and share.